we're going to get started with a little Jamboard that I'm going to post in the chat here. So for folks that haven't used this before, once you click that link, there's going to be a screen where we're asking folks, why would Alden deny us and our families these basic elements of a dignified workplace? For anyone just joining, welcome. We're asking folks to answer the question. We're asking folks, why would Alden deny us and our families basic elements of a dignified workplace? And today we're talking about leave specifically and how Tribune does not offer paid leaves for families. Got some great responses coming in here already. Let's see. Short-term profit over people. Absolutely. Journalists don't take breaks or have lives, right? But we can all relate to that one. Greed. Ooh, because they want to create a baseline of misery to make us feel insecure and demanding things. That's packs a punch. All right, I think we're ready to move on to our video portion. This link will still be available if folks want to add on. Yes, Heath Freeman owns 16 Palm Beach mansions. That is a fact on this sheet. Otherwise, I think we're ready to share our video for today.
Hi, I'm Sarah Harvey, a designer at the Design Production Studio, co-chair at the DPS unit, and member of the Tribune Guild's Joint Bargaining Table team.
And I'm the Contract Monster, or Connie for short, mascot of the Tribune Guild's contract campaign. So, as you know, Sarah, I'm more than just a cute face. So tell me, what has the Joint Bargaining Table team been doing?
Well, the Tribune Guild Joint Bargaining Table team has been hard at work negotiating paid bereavement leave, short and long-term medical leave, and paid parental leaves.
And how has that been going?
It's been a busy few weeks.
I bet. And from what I've been reading about your company, Alden Global Capital, it sounds like tough work.
Oh, you mean the piece in the Atlantic?
It describes the horror movie quality of Alden's newsroom takeovers.
Uh-huh.
It says Alden co-founder Randall Smith is a pioneer of vulture capitalism.
It did.
It says Smith owned 16 mansions in Palm Beach, Florida. But a vulture? Is Alden a friendly scavenger aiding along the circle of life?
Well, as one former Tribune reporter said in the article, a vulture doesn't hold a wounded animal's head underwater.
But how could you be so mean? I mean, even vultures have families, right?
Maybe?
Oh, wait, it doesn't matter. Because from what I've heard and read, Alden doesn't care about families. The company offers no type of paid family leave. It's the only major media company in the United States that doesn't provide this benefit. New parents at Bloomberg receive 26 weeks paid time off. New parents at the Washington Post get 20 weeks off for adopting or having a new child. New parents at Tribune receive 0 days of paid time off. Zilch, nada, nothing.
That's right.
A big goose egg.
Yes.
Well, who does this affect? Just new parents?
Great question, Connie. It turns out that even in a pandemic, Tribune workers who need to take medical leave or support a family member through any type of health crisis receive 0 days of paid time off.
So they do affect everyone, don't they?
They sure do. People think of new parents as the main group of people affected by these policies, but anyone, especially in a pandemic, is susceptible to illness, to the need to take care of a parent, spouse, child, or other family member, or the need to take time to grieve the loss of a loved one. And today we have a collection of compelling stories shared by our union family across the company.
Ooh, let's watch!
First, we have Amy Shortell, a photographer at the Morning Call in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
2 years ago, my husband and I decided to begin a family. Little did we know how hard the lack of paid parental leave would hit us both financially and emotionally. Tribune's current policy for leave mandates that once short-term disability and FMLA end, that the employees, mine in this case, remaining PTO be used to cover for the 6 weeks not covered by short-term or FMLA. Because of this, when I returned to work in June 2018, I had no PTO left for handling illness and medical emergencies. My daughter one weekend was not able to keep any food down, and when the doctor on call referred us to the emergency room, I could not go with my family. I had no paid time left, and we needed me to bring in my full paycheck to maintain our budget. So I had to tearfully send my husband and daughter off to the emergency room and report for my weekend shift like normal, all while being extremely worried about my baby. Luckily, she was okay and able to come home that day. No parent should be in the position of having to wait for updates via text message and phone call while sitting in the newsroom because the company takes all their PTO and provides no alternative.
No parent should have to be at work when their child isn't in the emergency room. Paid family leave eliminates the need for mothers to have to lose all their PTO after returning from maternity leave and gives parents breathing room when emergencies arise. Appreciate you sharing your story, Amy. Presenting next is Gab Rousson, a former reporter at the Orlando Sentinel.
I took a buyout in June when I was about almost 8 months pregnant. One of the big reasons why I left was because there was no paid parent leave. And now I have this little guy. He's 2 months old, and if I had stayed, right now I would be either having to decide between taking him to daycare and going back full time, or I would be on unpaid FMLA. And both those options are awful. So do the right thing, have paid parent leave.
No one should have to quit their job because a buyout is a better option financially than going on much needed leave. Our union family and our newsrooms deserve better. Thanks, Gabby. And what a cute little one. Next up, we have Jordan Sisson, a former content editor at the Hartford Courant.
My daughter was born in May of 2018, and I was diagnosed with postpartum anxiety shortly after. I took 12 weeks of leave. The first 8 were paid at 100% of my salary by the company, and then the remaining 4 were paid at 40% of my normal take-home pay. And that was completely unsustainable for my family. And it was because of that at 12 weeks postpartum, despite feeling completely unprepared, that I returned to work full-time. That financial hit 3.5 years ago is still something that my family and I are struggling from. And it took leaving the paper to feel like we've gotten to a place where we're starting to rebuild and recoup that loss. But more than that, it took about 18 months for me to feel like I was getting back to some semblance of my former self, and to a point where my postpartum anxiety wasn't controlling me. I truly wonder, had I had access to a longer, fully paid leave, if it would have taken so long for me to recover.
For those who might not know, Tribune workers who go on parental or medical leave are only eligible for any kind of pay independent of PTO if they are approved for it by a third party to qualify for disability leave. Pregnancy should not be considered a disability, and new parents deserve the time they need to care for their children without mental duress and financial devastation. Thank you, Jordan. Our next speaker is Pinar Istek, a photo editor with Tribune News Service.
In February 2020, I gave birth to my son. This was a few weeks before the pandemic hit. At that point, I had been working for the Tribune Publishing for 9 months. Early on, a coworker told me I would not be qualified for the 3-month unpaid maternity leave because I need to work for an entire year before I would qualify for that privilege. She also told me that I could take a short-term disability for 2 months, pay into it a little more than what the company automatically pays, and that would be a solution for it. First of all, not qualifying for a simple privilege like that made me feel like I'm less than my coworkers. I had already been working for 9 months, and that seemed to not count for anything. And secondly, 2 months is not a lot of time to recover from a birth, to adjust to a new life with a newborn. And it was very challenging to not have enough time to continue bonding with my child. Tribune just like put us in a really challenging situation that's basically a double-edged sword, and I really wish there could be changes for future employees, for their families, for their plans to start families. Thanks for listening.
No one should be made to feel less than because of company policies that do not value its workers' families and lives, especially with an added burden of having to go through this experience during the most volatile time of the global pandemic. We deserve dignity and the ability to take care of ourselves and our loved ones without having to sacrifice our livelihoods. Appreciate you sharing your story, Pinar.
Sarah, I am outraged. Tribune journalists live and bleed for the newsroom to serve their communities, protect democracy. They treat their publications like they're part of their families, and this is what they get in return? Alden is the worst deadbeat parent on the planet.
Tribune journalists deserve better. We deserve paid leaves to take care of ourselves, our loved ones, and in turn, our publications.
I just wish there was something we could do about it.
Well, that's the good news. We can, and it's going to take all of us.
Thank you. And next we're going to move on. Sarah's going to introduce the proposals that we have brought to the table. Sarah?
Hey folks, thanks for sticking around and watching that video. We appreciate all of you being here because it means that you want to see change. So we had a really big victory last week. We put several proposals forth to the company. Our major victory that we are really excited about because it's the first time the company's made really an economic movement on anything. So we asked for 5 days of bereavement leave. We also asked for family to include folks not living in your home because we know how to define our own families, right? It doesn't always look like a normal nuclear family because the company obviously has a very narrow viewpoint. But instead of getting 3 days, which is what we have now, we're going to have 4 days of bereavement leave for full-time employees. And the company had absolutely the most hilarious response, which told us that we're doing a good job. The only reason they gave us 4, which seemed to be an arbitrary number to us, right? Because a work week is typically 5 days. And that's really mostly why we asked for 5. The answer was that they were just trying to compromise. So as you can imagine, that was fairly hilarious to us, but we accepted the proposal. This was, something that could not have been achieved without everybody showing up for the actions that we've done recently, and especially for the bargaining observing that you all did. The company was not expecting to see a large portion of members watching them watch testimonial videos about folks who have experienced these really awful situations because of these company policies that just stink. So, we did offer them a couple other proposals that they were not favorable to. So we're going to go back and take another look at a lot of these leaves policies because We know now that the company is willing to give us more than what we have now. And we also know that y'all are awake, you're activated, and you're here to support each other. You're not supporting us. We're not doing all this work. You're helping yourself, and you're helping your other guildmates across the US. You'll see tons of names here. These are folks from all over the country who work at other papers. If you're a DPS like me, you recognize a lot of these names as bylines that you've put on the page. And so just really excited to see all of you here, and please, please support your bargaining team by showing up for these actions when we ask you to, because it is so important. And this last week really proved that.
All right, thank you, Sarah. We're going to move on now to, we're going to go back to that opening question that we asked at the chat. Why would Alden deny us and our families these basic elements of a dignified workplace? So we've got a lot of good answers here, but a couple we really wanted to pinpoint are because they want to create a baseline of misery to make us feel insecure and demanding things. They want to prioritize profit at all costs. They see talent as expendable. They'll only do what is required by law and no more. And because it's Tribune's business model to let our staff shrink, and now we barely have enough people to function. These are all really, really valid and clearly speak to what we are all going through right now, especially in the middle of a pandemic, not having any access to paid medical leave from the company. So Sarah had brought up so many good points in terms of we're all in this fight together. This fight is everybody's fight. And the only way that we can win is by escalating with events like these. So yes, please make sure that you're engaged with your bargaining team and your steward network and your local leadership, as well as how we're going to escalate even further, because they have not moved on our paid leave proposals beyond bereavement leave. So we're going to have to just keep escalating beyond this. And so to that point, we're going to kick it to Jake, who's going to walk us through what's next.
All right, that's me. Hey, everybody. I am Jake Norman. I'm a reporter over at Pioneer Press in Chicago. And I have been tasked today with letting everybody know again what direction we're wanting to go. Where do we go from here? Before I start that, I just, again, want to reiterate what Sarah and Katie said and just express my appreciation for everybody here. Like, this is a big deal. Everybody coming at this is an important issue. And this is something we need to continue to fight for. I mean, you know, you can use every adjective you want. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing that Alden doesn't offer this to us. So does anybody have any proposals or ideas or things they would like to see as far as escalation goes? Any suggestions?
I'd suggest that with the videos that were on the presentation here, obviously this isn't everybody in the company. This isn't, and not everybody was at the bargaining table as well. I'm using those testimonials sort of, you know, since we're not in newsrooms, we're not able to sort of chat with people about how they're doing and things they've gone through. And I think that, you know, we were able to really rally around folks when we, you know, knew that they were going through, you know, some challenge and things like that. So just any way we can sort of, you know, let folks, like, not just show those folks those videos, but also let them know that, you know, if they're having those problems, they can come forward and we can help them out. I don't know, just ways that we can sort of be there for each other and, you know, communicate when folks are going through that kind of problem, and then connect them back to what we're doing at the table to try and guarantee that they, if something happens, that they, you know, have a place to go.
Okay, great. Is anybody else have any comments or any
Yeah,
suggestions?
I have a thought, Jake. You know, everybody at this in this group has probably heard the term work to rule at this point, and this concept of not doing extra work as kind of a favor to the company. And if, as we've seen through the paid family leave bargaining, if the company doesn't care about us enough to give us the most basic protections when we or our loved ones get sick, why should we be helping them out by doing extra work to benefit them? So that's something I think we should be thinking about.
And that's a great kind of segue, because work to rule is right in line with the kind of action we were thinking about going forward. So just to quickly clarify for those of you who aren't familiar with work to rule, work to rule it's basically in the name. It's working to the specific rules created by the organization that you've agreed on, and nothing else, no more. So if your agreement says you work 7.5 hours a day, you only work those 7.5 hours. This can apply to a lot of different things. So it's not limited to just, hours in that example I gave. But we think work to rule going forward is a great idea because it really helps with three things. So for one, it helps with the overall well-being of members in the workplace. You're not overworking yourself. You're not getting bogged down in work that maybe you're uncomfortable or unfamiliar with. So, and of course, that's going to have a compounding effect because everybody is going to be having that as well. So it makes for a better workplace, while at the same time, because you're not overworking, it hurts productivity overall. And that puts management in a bind. That forces management to kind of have to come back and go, okay, well, what do we do? How do we combat this? And that gets to the third element of this, which is this a safe action to take? And it absolutely is. I mean, when was the last time you got in trouble for doing exactly what you were supposed to do? So it's I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments. Work to rule doesn't work when you have no rules and are expected to cover news at any time, any day. Exactly. So putting our foot down and establishing what we are willing to do as far as work to rule is imperative to putting Alden in a bind, helping our well-being, and also, again, it's a safe action. So we are asking everybody to kind of go back to their workshops and find a way that they can put work to rule in action. So for me personally, I know I was talking with the other member in my workshop, and we were talking about maybe putting our foot down for overtime. We've been working a lot of weekends lately because we've had a lot of buyouts. So we are thinking about stopping, work at the 7.5 hour point like we're supposed to, not working weekends, not working these evenings. A lot of different ways to go about it. I think one example Malcolm gave me when I was talking with him yesterday was last year, I think it was during the remote work when everybody transitioned to working from home, Tribune made a policy that said, hey, you don't have to use your home internet. And the guild said, all right, bet, give us those hotspots. Kind of forces Tribune to, this is based on the policy they created. So that's the ask. Does anybody have any questions about this or any suggestions to this? Or
Molly Walensky at the Morning Call.
Hey, Molly.
In Allentown, Pennsylvania. Obviously, we all care about the work that we do, and we're committed to the communities we serve. So I'm wondering what or how we can navigate being stewards to our community, but still only working for what we're getting paid for, and how we can rationalize that and let people know that we're putting our foot down and we're not taking it out on our audience, our managers.
Does anybody want to speak to that, or I don't want to step on any toes?
I can, Jake.
Okay.
I'm seeing in the comments here too, comments about that, we don't have designated hours, we aren't paid overtime. That may be true, but there is nothing written down that says you have to work 12 hours a day or you have to work 7 days a week. That is something that the company is counting on us going along with. So it requires just basically standing up and saying, I can't do this. If someone asks you to work on Sunday and you're not scheduled to work on Sunday, that is not my scheduled work day. So if you want me to work Sunday, then am I going to get paid overtime, or am I going to have a day off in the next week, which is what the law says you have to do. And these are difficult conversations, obviously, but they need it. Nothing is going to change if we just continue to say, well, we can't do anything about it because they expect us to work all the time. They can't expect you to work all the time. It's illegal. And so I think part of it is just starting to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. Whatever's happened in the past is over and it's done. But the next time your boss asks you to go to a 6 o'clock meeting when you signed on at 9 o'clock and your shift started at 9 o'clock, there's a question there. Okay, well, how am I going to go to the 6 o'clock meeting when I started at 9 o'clock? That's overtime. How is that going to be taken care of? Am I going to be paid, or am I going to get a comp day within 5 days? And if I'm not going to get either of those things, I'm sorry, but I cannot work. And in terms of the us wanting to be stewards to our community, our vocation is amazing because we are so dedicated to our communities, right? We love our communities. We want to do right by them. We have been put in an impossible situation, and impossible situations just create constant dilemmas. The dilemma is being put on you by a company that does not care about you, that does not see you as an important person, but sees you as just a wage slave. And if we are going to cover the community effectively, we can't be burnt out working 7 days a week, not, taking care of our family and friends, not taking care of our own health. So they are very difficult conversations, and but there's just a point where it has to start happening. Otherwise, the situation is just going to perpetuate itself. And I understand what I'm saying is challenging and difficult, but so is working 7 days a week. So is working overtime every day. That is taking a toll on your literal health. And the only way to stop it is to start to say no.
Again, it's a tough ask. I know it's difficult conversations, but it's also, as Wendy said, it's extremely difficult to work 7 days a week. It's extremely difficult to not have family leave. So this is something we have to do. This is something we need to continue to push and fight for. And if it's going to make them uncomfortable to some extent, it's going to have to make us a little uncomfortable along the way, but it will be well worth it if we can be successful.
I just wanted to add to what you were saying, Jake, and Wendy as well. Obviously, this is a philosophical issue to some degree. Mm-hmm. We all want to do a good job and serve our communities. And it's true that what we're going to need to do to win and get the things we deserve as human beings and as workers is sit through this discomfort a little bit to get to that point. And because this can play out in other ways too, besides winning paid leaves. And we never know how these things are going to play out, right? We all know what it's like to have someone leave, and then we're all expected to absorb that work, and they don't hire people, right? Something that we have talked about after the buyouts is conversations with your local management. If you're asked to take on more, if you're asked to take on work from folks who leave, you can say, I'm uncomfortable with that because it adds more than 40 hours to my work week. What would you like to take off my plate? Things like that put pressure on management in ways that they are not comfortable with. And I can share that in our shop, we had some success with that because we had solidarity with 5 or so people saying that exact same thing. And it led to somebody getting hired. So shops are getting new hires. If you're being told that this isn't happening, that's simply not true. And actions like this is how we accomplish that.
Katie, I was reminded of the DPS action that happened back in May that we did kind of on our own without any other units participating, but we had been seeing so much overtime, and we still really are seeing a lot of overtime needed, but we basically took an entire week where we did not accept any overtime. Our managers asked us to take overtime and we said no, which you can do when they're asking. You can say no, and your answer can always be no if you want. But for this whole week, at least 85% of our unit said no to overtime, and as a result, we actually had managers covering shifts that they did not normally have to cover because they're used to us bending over backwards. Some people working 6-7 days a week, and we have people, it's stuff at DPS is getting better, but it's still really bad. And we need to keep putting pressure on this company. And so You know, unless overtime is assigned overtime, if they're just asking you, you do not have to say yes. They need to be carrying that burden because we already are doing everything we possibly can. You can't get blood from a stone.
Sarah brings up so many good points. I just want to bump, I've gotten a couple direct messages asking for that language again. So I just want to repeat it for anyone who might need it. If management is coming to you with extra work, you have the right to say, I'm uncomfortable with that because it adds more than 40 hours to my work week. What would you like to take off my plate? And these conversations, like we said, are uncomfortable, but that's how we get it done. And if you have any more questions about that, feel free to reach out to us after this.
Sorry, I might have missed something briefly, but what about for those of us who do 37 and a half hours? Is it only applicable to if it surpasses 40 hours or?
No, so I do 37 and a half as well. So in your case, you would only work 37 and a half. So if that's the agreement that you have come to, you don't exceed 37 and a half. So yeah, it's whatever your own individual agreement is.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, does anyone have any other, Becca? Do you want to say something?
Oh, sorry. Were any of the folks in your unit who tried that salaried?
I think I did that. I'm an editor, salaried. I was sort of in line to take the work from the editor who left, and I followed the script, and it was weird. The manager was just like, gotta go. That was the end of the call. And then I, heard last week that, hey, there's this new guy who's going to be coming on. We're going to be training him, next Friday. So, yeah,
yes.
It worked.
Yes, it was so encouraging to see the shop getting so involved with that. And thank you for clarifying the salary issue. All right, any other questions, thoughts, insights before we leave for this afternoon? Please do check out that doc that Malcolm just posted in the chat. Okay, if not, appreciate you all so much for being here today. It's great to see everyone. Again, what we're thinking about moving forward is how can we apply the concept of work to rule to our own jobs? For some people, that might mean not taking on more than 40 hours or 37.5 hours, anything like that. Or for some, it might look like something different. So keep communicating with your coworkers too, to see what they think that means to them. Keep an ear out for your stewards and local leadership to talk about this more. We'll be talking about it a lot in the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, again, appreciate y'all being here, and we'll be in touch soon.